welcome to my new video. Today we are going to talk about packaging engineering. Packaging engineering is something that I am made myself as a specialty basically. How come? Well, I am a car designer and I am an automotive engineer. So I design cars and sometimes they are quite radical, and then the interior has to creatively be adapted to fit the design. Now, to do this properly, there needs to be always a compromise between things like safety, functionality of the vehicle. People need, of course, to fit in and do the thing. And So packaging engineering is a very big thing, and it revolves basically around a lot of different things. For example, what type of vehicle is it? For what will it be used? What is the design? What are the characteristics of the vehicle? Is it an electric vehicle? Is it a front engine vehicle? Is it a rear engine vehicle? Is it, there are all these things that come together in a vehicle. That's also why I mentioned in the previous video that chassis engineering is so difficult, because in the chassis also everything comes together, everything needs to be bolted to the chassis. And the same goes for packaging. Everything needs to fit within that body style. And of course you have your competitors, what can they do? So it's a very complex thing where everything comes together, and in the end, when you are designing a car, the person who designs the chassis might say, okay, yeah, I need a little bit more space because my pedal box is too narrow. Then the front suspension guy says, yeah, but if you need more space, then I don't get the steering angle that I require. Then they say, maybe we should go for a narrower tire. And then the tire guy says, yeah, well, if you go for a narrow tire, I don't have enough grip. And so it's this ongoing game between all the teams for compromise. And then the marketing guys come and the budget guys come and they say, okay, yeah, but the solution that you have is too expensive, or the competition has this, or safety wise you cannot do that. It's this battle between all the different areas. So in the end, a packaging is something that evolves when you are designing the car, and this is quite a significant point in my build at this point in time. I have selected enough components where I can safely say, okay, this is the battery capacity that I want, and I can mount it in here. This is the space claim that I require for my battery pack. I need a person in the car, of course, who else is going to drive it, and for the person I need this amount of space, and that fits now. I want to have a certain design platform, the skateboard itself, and to have that work properly, what I need is a ratio between the tire size, the length of the vehicle, and the height of the vehicle, and the width of the vehicle. And that ratio I now also have. I now have the front suspension layout figured out, I have the rear suspension layout figured out. So what that basically means is now I can start fixing things. So what I'm doing in this episode of Skateboard Design is I am fixing points. I am fixing the front suspension, I'm fixing the rear suspension, I'm fixing the packaging of the person. Where's the pedal box, where's the seating arrangements, where's the roll bar. I'm fixing the battery pack, I'm fixing basically all the major components that I have that I can say, okay, I need to package them. I'm going to fix them in this 3D sketch. It's a bunch of sketches through each other. One is the front suspension, one is the rear suspension, one is the battery pack, the other one is the chassis, the other one's the person and the view angles that he has, steering geometry. It's all these things that come together, and we are trying to figure it out, put very accurate dimension in it. And for those who never designed something from scratch in automotive, the most difficult is the front suspension. You don't get hard points or information from the factory. Yes, you know that you need a certain amount of toe or a certain amount of camber or a certain amount of whatever, but you don't know the exact adjustments. For example, when your wheel travels up through the suspension range or down through the suspension range, the steering arm is pushing onto the hub, and therefore your toe angle is deviating. And I know that there are some cars that have literally no toe in or out, but there are cars that have a locked toe in, out, and especially when you go over a bump and your toe angle changes, you can get bump steer. So you drive over a bump and your steering wheel starts to move. That's something, of course, you don't want. So these things, to get that geometry correct, how much camber do you want, how much caster do you want, how much toe do you want, how much do you want the line, the KPI line, go on the inside of the center line of your wheel or on the outside of the center line of your wheel. You know, these are all things you don't really get the exact information from a company. Ackerman is another thing. Of course, you know, in an ideal world where you want to have your Ackerman, but I think that most cars don't have it exactly in the rear axle. So there's a lot of things to figure out, a lot of fiddling with suspension geometries, etc., etc. And in the end, we're working with parts. There's some flexibility in the system, so you'll never get it perfect. But yeah, we need to design it to be quite close to perfect. And yeah, we need to start thinking about maintenance and replaceability of components, etc., etc. Yeah, so that's basically what this video is about. We are going into detailed packaging engineering, so we're gonna fix all the hard points of the chassis, of the suspension, and with that we can start our final model for the packaging. And of course we will update left and right things and details, and as we go we might see that that the wheel is getting a little bit too far out of the wheel arch, for example, and that we need to go in with the front wheel a little bit, for example. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah, so let's get started and let's finalize the hard parts. What you will see me do is make hardpoints and planes, and those planes are in general sketch, so I can load that sketch in, and then I have those planes and hardpoints already in place, so I don't need to sketch up all my hardpoints in every model again. So that's one big advantage. Second thing is that all the hardpoints give me the alignment for the pre-setup that I want on the car. Regarding the pre-setup, well, for the rears, because it's a rigid axle, there's no adjustment actually on camber, caster, toe or whatever. In the front I have 5 degrees camber, 5 degree caster, 1 degree negative, so inwards camber, and a 1/10 of a degree toe. I have the KPI angle of about 10 degrees or so. I think it's a little bit less. Yeah, so in general that's my setup, and on the ball joints I have some space to go in for a little bit more camber. so that for drifting, I imagine you want to have a little bit more camber at the front. So I also want to make a configuration where that camber is increased, to also have, for example, if a body now doesn't fit correctly, then I can run a 2 degrees camber or something like that, and then the body should, or the wheels should tuck into the wheel arch. I will show that in a video. I hope that you enjoyed this video. It's a little bit different maybe. It's something that you do not really get in engineering school, most likely, unless you have a project team where you are developing a car. It is my passion to design cars, and it's my passion to develop and engineer cars. I have had the pleasure to develop several cars already. Sadly, not a lot of them really came into production. Yeah, so that's sad, but on the other hand, you learn a lot from what you're doing, and every time you get more focused, you get faster at making decisions, and yeah, you go quicker through the process into finalizing and yeah, setting the targets for yourself. And because the most difficult thing when you're developing a car or whatever vehicle or project is, there are always options, there are always possibilities, and but you have to see what is in your budget, what is the client asking, etc. And in the end, you just have to say, okay, this is it, and we're not going to deviate again. Because it's very easy to keep walking in circles, but in the end you have to break through the circle and say, okay, this is the direction that we are taking, this is the way forward, and we're gonna lock it in, and this is what it is. And it's the same with component choices. In the end, you have to find the right components that fit your vehicle, that you can use. Yeah, and I'm doing this basically with no budget at all, so I have to go off the little information that is available on the internet and have some general dimensions of the front hub, for example, and the rear hub, and the brake calipers and disc brakes, etc., etc. And in the end, I hope to get some revenue in, and that we can start purchasing those parts and really put them in detail, so that we really know what we're talking about, and then we can start finalizing those little details that come up later. Yeah, but for now, we have to do it with what information that we have, and at least now we are getting the project going, and we are doing something, and we are figuring stuff out. And I hope you enjoy seeing this, and I hope you enjoy seeing the steps that we are making and how we are growing with this build. Because yeah, we started very simple, and I think that you can see that the build is getting more complex, is getting more finalized, more detailed. Yeah, so and with this step of creating the packaging, we are really starting to focus on laying everything down, committing to a certain design, to a certain size, to a certain shape. And yeah, so now we can really start focusing on weight, on design, on looks, on getting stuff figured out, so we can start production on those things if there is budget made available. And yeah, then we really can get somewhere. So again, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. And I look forward to your comments, and yeah, see you in the next time. Bye bye. Thank you for watching.